Last episode, we followed $17.9 trillion through the war economy and discovered that corporations made fortunes while 75 million people died. Now let us talk about what that money actually bought, because once you get past the economics and strategies, you're left with the surreal, absurd, often darkly hilarious reality of millions of people trying to kill each other in increasingly creative and stupid ways. Welcome to the absurdity machine. Alright, we've covered the money, the politics, and the cynical motivations. Now let's talk about the actual experience of World War II, because once you get past the grand strategies and economic theories, you're left with the surreal, absurd, often darkly hilarious reality of millions of people trying to kill each other in increasingly creative and stupid ways. Let us start with the weapons that sound like they were designed by a committee of drunk engineers who just watch too much science fiction. The Nazis, not content with regular war crimes, decided they needed space-age war crimes. Enter the sun gun, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up, a theoretical orbital mirror that would be placed in space to concentrate sunlight and burn enemy cities to ash from orbit. Yes, the Nazis were planning death rays from space. This wasn't just some engineer's fever dream that got filed away. This was an actual project that German scientists were working on. The concept was to build a giant mirror 3.5 miles wide, position it in orbit, and use it to focus sunlight into a beam hot enough to set cities on fire or boil parts of the ocean. It was literally a Bond villain plan, except these villains couldn't figure out how to make winter coats for their soldiers in Russia, but somehow thought they could build a space weapon. The same military that was losing because they didn't have enough trucks and fuel was dedicating resources to imagining space-based superweapons. It's like if your house is on fire and instead of calling the fire department, you start designing a teleporter. Sure, it would be cool if it worked, but maybe address the immediate problem first. But no, the Nazis were out here trying to skip directly to Death Star technology while their troops were freezing to death. Eating horses in Stalingrad? Priorities. And speaking of questionable weapons development, let's talk about Japan's contribution to military absurdity. Fugo balloon bombs. Picture this. It's 1944. Japan is losing the war on every front. Their navy is getting destroyed. Their cities are being firebombed. And someone in the Japanese military says, "You know what would turn this around? Paper balloons." I'm serious. Japan launched over 9,000 paper balloons carrying incendiary bombs designed to ride the jet stream across the Pacific Ocean and land in North America. 9,000 paper balloons floating 6,000 miles across the ocean, hoping to start forest fires and cause panic. It's the most passive-aggressive military strategy ever devised. We can't invade you, but we can send you annoying mail that explodes. The amazing thing, about 300 of them actually made it to North America. They caused some forest fires. They killed 6 people, a woman, and 5 children in Oregon, who found one and accidentally triggered it. Those are the only mainland American casualties from enemy action during the entire war. 6 people killed by a paper balloon from the other side of the planet. The Japanese Imperial military was running a transcontinental game of explosive hot potato, while the Manhattan Project was developing atomic bombs. Talk about asymmetric warfare. Imagine being a US general, overseeing the development of the most destructive weapon in human history, and having to deal with intelligence reports about enemy paper balloons. "Sir, we've intercepted another balloon." Is it carrying supplies? Intelligence? Advanced weapons? No, sir. It's paper with some explosives tied to it. What the fuck is happening in this war? But the absurdity wasn't limited to experimental weapons. Let's talk about the daily reality of soldier life, because it was surreal in ways that don't make it into the movies. Take cigarettes. The US Army issued 12 cigarettes per day to every soldier. 12. That's not a treat or a luxury. That was standard equipment, issued alongside ammunition and rations. The Army distributed roughly 350 billion cigarettes to its personnel during the war. 350 billion. That is not a supply chain, that is a coordinated public health crisis with better logistics than most modern vaccination programs. The military was essentially running the world's largest cigarette distribution network while simultaneously trying to win a war. About 50% of US soldiers smoked, which means the Army was deliberately getting half its fighting force addicted to nicotine because ... morale. It's like if a modern corporation gave every employee a vape pen with their paycheck and called it a workplace wellness program. And it wasn't just cigarettes. The average US soldier consumed 32.5 pounds of coffee per year. 32.5 pounds. Meanwhile, civilians back home were rationed to about 8.5 pounds per year. The military was running on industrial quantities of caffeine and nicotine, the same combination that powers modern tech startups. Except these guys were storming beaches instead of disrupting app markets. The entire US war effort was powered by stimulants and tobacco. Soldiers were basically living on the same diet as a first-year associate at a law firm. Coffee, cigarettes, stress, and the vague hope that this will all be worth it someday. Except, instead of PowerPoint presentations, they had artillery fire. The military was a hostile work environment in the most literal sense possible, fueled by substances that would make a modern HR department have a collective aneurysm. Now let's talk about the sheer statistical insanity of wartime production, because the numbers are so absurd they sound made up. The United States built more planes in 1944 than Japan produced from 1939 to 1945. Read that again. 1 year of American production exceeded 6 years of Japanese production. The US wasn't fighting a war, it was running an industrial speedrun. Any percent completion. World record attempt. The Pittsburgh Steel District alone produced more iron and steel than the entire Axis powers combined. One American city outmanufactured Germany, Italy, and Japan together. It wasn't a fair fight, it was an industrial curb-stomping disguised as military conflict. The Axis never stood a chance once American industry got rolling. Which raises the question, why did the war last 6 years? Because incompetence, hubris, and stupidity are evenly distributed across all sides, apparently. But production numbers don't capture the lived reality of soldiers, which was often more Kafkaesque than heroic. Consider the average US paratrooper, who jumped into combat carrying about 70 pounds of equipment. With the parachute, that's 105 pounds. They were dropping these guys out of planes, so weighted down they probably hit the ground like sacks of wet cement. It's a miracle they could walk after landing, let alone fight. Modern chiropractors must love studying World War II paratroopers, and this is why you and carry your entire life. Possessions on your back while falling from the sky. Or look at the M4 Sherman tank, the workhorse of the US Army. It could travel up to 30 miles per hour, which sounds decent until you learn it. Got about 1.4 miles per gallon. 1.4. It wasn't a tank, it was a rolling gas station robbery. The Sherman needed more fuel than a cruise ship had armor that German tanks could punch through like tissue paper, and a tendency to catch fire so notorious that crews called it the Ronson, after the lighter company's slogan. Lights the first time, every time. Terrific. Your tank is nicknamed after its ability to become your coffin. And then there is the truly surreal moment captured in footage from 1945. US and Red Army soldiers meeting at Torgau on the Elbe River. An American soldier extends his hand for a handshake. The Soviet soldier just stares at it, completely confused, like he's never seen the gesture before. Because, honestly, he probably hadn't. Handshakes weren't really a thing in Soviet military culture. So you have this perfect, awkward moment where two allies who've been fighting the same enemy cooey and even figured out how to greet each other. It's the geopolitical equivalent to that moment when you go for a handshake and the other person goes for a fist bump, and you both end up doing this weird hand slap thing. It's the perfect metaphor for the entire Allied relationship. Two completely different worlds colliding, united only by their mutual desire to stop someone even worse. Unable to communicate effectively even in victory. After years of propaganda painting each other as heroes and allies, they meet and realize they have nothing in common except a shared enemy. It's like when you become friends with someone online and then meet in person and discover you have zero chemistry. Want more absurdity? German posts held in camps in the United States were paid 80 cents per day to can food. 80 cents. 80 cents. We captured Nazis, brought them to America, and put them to work in our food supply chain. What could possibly go wrong? It's the most American solution ever. Even our prisoners of war participate in the gig economy. Yeah, we fought against you, but now you're here, so might as well make yourself useful. Here's less than $1. Now, can these vegetables, some of these German poos, had better living conditions in American camps than they had in the German army? They got regular meals, medical care, and weren't being shot at. Meanwhile, American soldiers were dying in Europe to defeat these same guys, who were now living comfortably in Indiana, making 80 cents a day. Canning beans. The prisoners probably thought they'd won the lottery. I get captured, shipped to America, fed regularly, and all I have to do is work in a cannery. Where do I sign up for permanent residence? But if you want true horror disguised as statistics, look at the Eastern Front, where over 80% of all World War II casualties occurred. 80%. The war in Western Europe, D-Day, Battle of the Bulge. All the stuff American movies focus on, that was 20% of the dying. The real meat grinder was in the East, where the Nazis and Soviets tried to exterminate each other with industrial efficiency. The average lifespan of a Soviet soldier at the Battle of Stalingrad was 24 hours. 24 hours. You'd arrive at the front, get handed a rifle maybe. If you were lucky, and statistically, you'd be dead before the next sunrise. Not wounded, not captured. Dead. It wasn't warfare, it was a suicide lottery where everyone's number came up. Imagine being shipped to Stalingrad knowing that statistic. You are on the train heading to the front, and you know that by this time tomorrow, you will probably be a corpse frozen in the rubble of a city that has been bombed into abstract art. You don't even have time to learn your squad mates' names before you're all dead. It is not heroic, it is industrial-scale murder with a thin veneer of military strategy painted over it. The temperature in Stalingrad dropped as low as -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Both sides were fighting in conditions that would kill you even without enemy soldiers shooting at you. Frostbite, starvation, disease, these killed as many people as bullets. German rations were reduced to about 1,000 calories per day. Soviet soldiers weren't much better off. Both armies were essentially zombies, animated by orders and terror, fighting over the ruins of a city that had ceased to exist as anything except a symbol. And through all of this, the space weapons that never materialized, the paper balloons floating across the Pacific, the cigarette-fueled war. F at the POWs. Canning food in Indiana, the meat grinder of the Eastern Front, their S. This persistent absurdity that humans just kept making it worse. Hitler didn't tell Mussolini about Operation Barbarossa until after it started. That's right, Germany's closest ally was uninformed about the largest military operation in history until German troops were already crossing the Soviet border. It is the geopolitical equivalent of texting your roommate. Hello, started a land war in Asia after you've already committed 3 million troops. The United States and Canada had actual war plans to invade each other before World War II. Canada's plan required Australian troops to invade California. Let me repeat that. Canada's strategy for invading the United States involved asking Australians to cross the Pacific Ocean and land in California. It is like if your neighbor had a detailed plan to rob your house that required calling their cousin in another country to help. The logistics alone are more complicated than just not invading your neighbor. The standard German infantry division in 1939 carried 442 machine guns, 135 mortar, 72 anti-tank guns, and 24 They were equipped like they were preparing to fight Godzilla's angry cousin. Meanwhile, Allied divisions at the start of the war barely exceeded their World War I firepower. The Germans showed up to the fight with every weapon they could carry, and everyone else showed up with their grandfather's rifle and hope. But perhaps the most quietly devastating statistic. During World War II, 15,000 of the 52,000 U.S. flight crew deaths occurred during training. 15,000 more American airmen died learning to fly than died in combat in some theaters. You had a better chance of surviving combat missions over Germany than you did surviving flight school. The training to fight the war was deadlier than parts of the actual war. It's like if more people died in driver's ed than in actual car accidents. This is what happens when you scale up military operations faster than you can scale up competence. You get training programs that kill thousands of your own people, logistics networks that can't support the forces they're supposed to supply, and strategies that sound brilliant on paper but require soldiers to violate the laws of physics to succeed. The whole war was a rolling disaster of good intentions, terrible execution, occasional competence, and frequent absurdity. It was humanity trying to organize mass death on an industrial scale and discovering that organizing anything at scale is really hard, even when the stakes are existential survival. And that brings us to the most uncomfortable question of all. Did we learn anything? Have the patterns changed? Or are we watching the same circus with better special effects and worse haircuts? That Espadate Ara finale, where we connect World War II to 2025 and expose the modern parallels that should absolutely terrify you. We're going to talk about Putin's Russia cosplaying as Nazi Germany while claiming to fight Nazis. We're going to expose how Trump's playbook is straight from 1930s populism. We're going to show you how the same patterns that led to 75 million deaths are playing out right now, and most people don't even notice. Click part 8 right now, it's the finale. And it's going to make you question everything you think you know about modern politics. Or check the full playlist. Subscribe to Midnight Meme Historian because this is the culmination of everything we've built toward. The patterns repeat. The question is whether we recognize them in time. Comment below. What's the most absurd fact from this episode? The Nazi space weapon. The balloon bombs. The 24-hour lifespan at Let me know what broke your brain. Support the finale at kofi.com/midnightmemehistorian. We're almost done. Let's finish strong. Part 8. Modern Parallels. The finale. Watch it now before history repeats itself.